Something different this week. It's not exactly a lesson, although in a way it is, because I think we learn things along the way and some it isn't specifically teaching you, but you hear some information, you go, my God, that's really important. So I'm going to tell you a setup for why something was great for a promotion, to do something with your radio station. It's totally free. And then I'm going to tell you exactly what that actually is and what you can do for your radio station. Welcome back to Music.com Academy, everybody. Today I'm going to tell you about a promotion, but I really need to do the setup for it to explain why it is so important. I happened to go to a convention, and when I was there, they had a speaker. You know, when you're in the room and there's 500 to 1,000 people in this big room and there's somebody up speaking. This happened to be the vice president of marketing for Harley Davidson. And he went through basically how they saved Harley Davidson in the late 80s, early 90s, okay? And he went through the whole thing, and at first it was sort of boring. It's okay, a lot of stats, a lot of numbers, a lot of financial stuff. And then he turned to what I thought was totally deadlock on radio back then, and even now, maybe even more so now, because it really pertains to taking somebody who's a listener and turning them into a fan. They're like a disciple for your radio station if you do it correctly. So here's a story. I'm going to skip all the finances and all that other stuff. Suffice to say that, it's the early 90s and Harley Davidson is about to go out of business. Okay? They're down to the last few months worth of capital money to keep the station running. They're looking for loans, but they can't really get any, and they figure it's done. So the owner of Harley Davidson, the heir, so to speak, because there were two guys that formed Harley Davidson, and I think in around 1903, 1905, somewhere in there. As I recall, both their names were William. It was William Harley and William Davidson. And, they were young guys, and they just, liked engines and motorcycles, so they formed it. So, fast forward now to the 90s when all of this is going on, and there's an heir, the Davidson heir is running the company, and, it's like, oh man, my great-granddad, I'm going to put this company under. What am I going to do? Anyway, they couldn't figure out any way of saving the company. No ideas were coming to get sales to move. And they decide, he decides just for passion and for caring about the brand and his parents and grandparents and stuff like that, he decides to throw this pretty big party, a couple of them around the United States, for free, and invite Harley Davidson owners to come to this. And they got big name acts, big country acts, big rock acts, big pop acts on stage, and that's the parties actually that he's throwing for Harley Davidson owners. So while it's going on, they're all coming up to him and talking to him because, he's a Davidson of the Harley Davidson. And along the way, they start to get an inkling of, what? We've been looking at this all wrong, totally wrong. And they come up with an idea to save the company, which ultimately does save the company. And this is the idea that saved the company. Let me show you a picture. This is what did it. Take a careful look at this. What do you see? Now think about it for a minute, because to me, it's also the reason why Facebook is so successful and how you can make your station more successful. He opened up questions from the audience, if anybody could guess like what that answer was, what saved the company, and they got answers like, well, sell to bikers more, or maybe have a Harley Davidson Hells Angels edition, or give away free tattoos with a bike. If you buy a bike, you get free tattoos. All of those were wrong. The answer was incredibly simple, super simple. The guy just wants to be noticed. That's it. He just wants to be noticed. You've heard that very famous quote, men leave lives of quiet desperation. Well, that's what they actually found out for Harley Davidson owners, and I'm sure it's for a ton of people, men and women, around the world. Their kids ignore them, their boss ignores them, their coworkers ignore them, their wives usually ignore them, It's just the way it is. You're sort of a nobody, even though you're there in front of somebody and maybe you're talking, but nobody really notices you. But when you're on a Harley Davidson, that all changes. You sit and rev that baby up, and all of a sudden you're a somebody. Harleys are beautiful, they're loud, they have a mystique and history. When a guy rides one down the street, people glance to see if it's a Harley or one of those other bikes that sort of don't count, like a Honda or a Suzuki. Have four guys riding down the street and you have people stopping and staring until they pass by. Kids climb into the rear view window of a car and look out at them and just stare. Parents sort of tremble a bit and think ominous thoughts if those four guys are scruffy and maybe they're wearing colors or something. They're a parade, but they just don't have any floats. What Harley found is that when you ride a Harley, you are a somebody for at least the amount of time that you're on that bike and that engine is running. Even sometimes when the engine isn't running. You are a star. You're the center of attention most people rarely ever get. That's what they found, and using that as their marketing premise, not exactly, I mean, they didn't use that all word for word, but that's what they kept hitting at. You know, you're on a Harley, you'll get noticed, you're a somebody, that type of thing. That's the mental picture that they used words to go after that. That's what turned around the company. And I'm sitting watching that VP of marketing up on the stage. I'm going, wow, that is so appropriate to radio. We have listeners, but what do we actually do for them? What do we actually do to make them feel special? I personally think Facebook is pretty much the same thing. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, you know, I can keep track of my friends, I can stay up to date, I can contact people that I haven't seen. You know, all of that is well and good, but I think the fact of the matter for Facebook is you've got your own publishing company and you are the editor. You're the star. It's all about you. Facebook is their stage and everyone gets a shot at the mic. It's a free Harley that anybody can ride. So with all that under our belts now, how do you make your radio station fit into that? Who's the star on your radio station? Is it your people on the air? I mean, they should be stars, but don't you think that the listeners should be a star too? Don't you think that they should count? And they usually don't. Pretty much on no radio station really do they actually count. But you can really do things that make them count. And here's one that I was told and I was like stunned because it just sort of popped out in conversation. It wasn't like, hey, you should do this. It was just sort of an example that got thrown out in the middle of a conversation and I just blanked on everything that came after it because my mind was going, wow, that was awesome. I don't even know what they're talking about now. I don't really care. Let me just think this through, what I just heard. And what I just heard came from Walter Sabo. Walter was a consultant for news talk stations and news stations for many, many years, decades actually. And in the midst of a conversation, because he was consulting my news talk radio station, he just threw this out. And what he said was so simple. Again, he was talking about doing it on a news talk radio station, but this could totally be done, no problem at all, on a music radio station. It's actually easier because there's less times that you would have to do it. And for a morning show, my God, it's impeccable to do. And this is what he said. Somebody calls into the radio station for a contest. Somebody calls in with a joke or something for the morning show. They weigh in on the morning show because, you know, they're doing something about, hey, tell me your story about whatever, and the person gets on. Okay, well, somebody at the radio station, the screener, if you're in a talk show, or the morning producer, hey, would you like a copy of being on the air with Joe Blow here, or the so-and-so in the morning crew? Oh, yeah. Okay, just give me your email address and we'll send you a copy. Who's going to say no? Pretty much nobody. First off, you're going to get their email address, that's for sure. I mean, they're going to do that. They're going to give you their email address, and then all you do is you just take, when they're on the air, maybe they're doing a story with the morning show, it's 45 seconds, let's just say. Okay, clip, you put it into an MP3 small file, and you email it to them with some stock thing. Thanks for listening, really love that you love our radio station. Hopefully you'll love sharing this with your friends, and they will share it with their friends. First thing they're probably going to do after they get it, because they'll probably get it at the office as a guest, they'll listen to it, they'll start playing it for some of their friends, they're going to play it for their wife, they're probably going to play it for their kids. They are going to take that bit and basically expand the cume of your radio station to a whole bunch of people that may not listen at all, and they are going to be proud to do it. Why are they going to be proud to do it? Because they're the center of attention. They're the star in this. They were on the radio with the radio guy and everybody else wasn't. You're nobodies. I'm a somebody for at least the 45 seconds that I'm playing you this clip when I was on the morning show, or I was on with a talks person, or I was on with Rush Limbaugh, or whatever. I'm a somebody. And it's totally free to do. Just takes a little work, inside with the people that are already there. So hopefully that's some value and you can actually use that somewhere down the road or maybe immediately, because I think it is just fantastic. When Walter happened to say that to me, I was a GM, I couldn't really do it. So I never got a chance to do that. Man, if I was a PD right now, that'd be one of the first things that I would do. Anyway, thanks for being here. Until the next lesson. See ya.